I'd watch the practice with none of my friends. I'd turn the dial to ABC to see the creep of the week that Bobby Donald defends. But I'm out of practice.
With your hosts, Keith Barney.
Out of practice.
And Mike Indeglio.
Way back in high school, most every
gotta fix my hair.
night, my mom watched QVC, so I
Advil
missed the
cam.
practice. There was no TiVo. What could I do? Wait 15 years, get fat, then stream it on Hulu. Out of practice.
This is our last episode from Cape May.
Out of practice.
I have an almond croissant. Get ready to listen to me eat.
Yay!
Out of practice.
And welcome to the Out of Practice Podcast, a weekly video and audio podcast going through David E. Kelly's award-winning series, The Practice. This week we are up to Season 4, Episode 15, Race Ipsa Loquitor. I love how that I couldn't say 15, but I was able to get through the quasi-Latin. This is Oops Episode 76. How's it going, Mike?
It's going great. I'm so nervous because we got started very quickly today, and generally
We
it
did.
takes us hours to get the launch sequence down properly. So I'm nervous. I should feel relieved, but I feel very stressed out with the whole thing.
Yeah, well, no, but look, whatever happens, happens. That is what our podcast is. It could be
That's
a
true.
hot mess, like I was yesterday. We didn't record yesterday. I have to tell my heroic story.
Please do.
I
was going to give you a pat on the back, but I think it's more on brand for us to
It's more
brag
on
for
brand if I
ourselves.
just bring it up myself.
Yeah.
Oh, God, what a mess. No, but yesterday, low-cal Keith, I did my long run. Jillian and I, we did the 10-miler yesterday. Now, I have to, just to be very clear, because as you can see, still chubby. So I did not run all 10 of those miles, but we did about 8.5 of our jeffing, which was...
Jeff Galloway, check him out.
It was actually pretty good. Like it was fun. It was hot as balls, so I took your advice and we stopped for water twice throughout it. And it was pretty gross by the end.
Now, the principle between Galloway's method, just for those at home listening who might be interested in
wow.
getting off the couch a little bit, is that so a lot of people don't make it far into a fitness or a running plan because it's very hard, and you get in shape much slower than you lose shape, as it turns out scientifically. So, and not to mention, as you get older, running is just really bad for you physiologically, like on your knees and cartilage and bone and all that stuff. And so his principle is that by working in the way we're designed, basically, we are walking creatures. So the science shows that you recover much quicker walking than you do running. And so by mixing in staggered walks throughout your run, you actually prolong how long you can run, you quicken how quickly your fitness elevates, and you actually are motivated to stay with it because the barrier to entry mentally is less because you know you have breaks coming up. And a lot of people actually end up lowering their race splits because they kind of preserve their body throughout a long run. So if you're training for a marathon, a lot of people find out that by incorporating walks, they actually end up finishing the marathon sooner. So it's a great method. I recommend it. I'm actually adopting it back myself. So
Are you really?
Yeah.
I was wondering because you've now apparently done a great deal of research on this that I have not done.
well, when I first started running, I did.
You did?
I then started getting, I was actually running pretty quickly. So I abandoned that method because if you were trying for sub 3.5 hour marathons, it's a little bit harder to walk.
I was really happy I got a sub 3.5 hour 10 miles.
Yeah. So anyway, that's not the point. The point is, I've interrupted your story already. So back to your heroic tale yesterday.
Oh no, that's it. Two disgusting things happen. I have two. I'm going to wrap up this story with a disgusting thing to begin it and a disgusting thing to end it. And the end was I was literally able to wring out my socks. That's how hot it was. That was gross.
Have you ever run 10 miles before?
Yes. Yeah. Back like 5 years ago, I did all of the training for a half and then never did it, which is, entirely like me. So I did. We actually ran like 11, like actually kept going. We didn't walk. I have no aspirations to do that now. But the first disgusting thing is we got back. Jillian and I drove back to Astoria this week.
Disgusting.
Because I have to move some stuff out of I have to move stuff out of the office, and we're gonna head back to Astoria now to use as a home base because we're looking for our next place. Anyway, so we got back. It was late. We were tired. Let's order a pizza. And so I was like, Jillian, this has been a stressful day. You get to pick out whatever pizza you could possibly want, and I will eat it. And wouldn't you know?
How brave of you, by the way. How brave, Keith.
Well, I didn't realize.
You order pizza and I'll eat it. That's a real
I
chivalrous...
I thought I might get something disgusting like mushrooms, but I did not. Yes. So the two
almond
ingredients.
Chew.
Oh, man, that was horrible. I'm so sorry, audience. Yes. So the two toppings that my lovely wife chose, you were right, pineapple and anchovies.
Oh God. Well, you know what? You asked for it. You T-balled that right up.
I totally did, but I didn't know that she would. It was like she's pranking herself.
Did she do that just to screw with you, or that's what she was really longing for, anchovy and pineapple pizza?
She genuinely just liked it. So as a result, I fueled my fat guy slow run that morning with pineapple and anchovy pizza, and you know what? It worked. So maybe that is the next cool thing we do. Well,
here's to you, everyone out there who likes pineapple and anchovy pizza. Okay, well, my wife intern is back. However, this is dedication.
She's the office manager.
You're right, regional assistant to the office manager. So we're very self-deprecating, obviously, about the pod, Keith, and about. But we're very happy for our listeners, and it is weird to me. I will tell you, as someone who's not used to being supported by most of my family in any venture, the fact that my wife actually genuinely listens to our podcast that we produce makes I don't even know the feels.
No, it's amazing. I am gratified by it, and I'm not even married to her.
So she got back from her vacation yesterday, and I asked if she wanted to jump on the call today. And she said, well, no, I'm an episode back. I want to make sure I catch up. I don't want to be spoiled for the next episode. So she's not with us today because she doesn't want to spoil the podcast.
Spoiler alert. Oh, that's amazing. That's so sweet.
It's the most loved I think I've ever felt.
I truly, that is truly the sweetest thing I've ever heard.
I'm also making a concerted effort before we start the show today to maintain a faux fourth wall eye contact because I was editing through last week and we definitely check ourselves out a little too much. Now, part of that was Advil Cam, and part of it is that we have like NASA or a SpaceX launch shuttle taking place. So we have to, there is a lot to pay attention to.
Yeah, seriously, I should do a screenshot. We should both screenshot like the unbelievable amount of things. I have two giant monitors and I cannot fit everything. And we call that segment
Filings and Subpoenas. Filings and Subpoenas. Filings and Subpoenas. Filings and Subpoenas.
All right, so we heard from Jorge talking about last episode, and he says, let the record reflect how offended Richard and others were at being called little and not a peep about the Nazi portion of the insult, because I think Eleanor called him a little Nazi, and she's totally right. It is so funny that people just didn't clock that as what it was. I think it's because back then being a Nazi was a ridiculous thing. And so no one could possibly think you were being serious because that
Keith
was a
bringing that
ridiculous
like
thing
a,
to
like
be.
a hot knife through butter with his cutting political commentary.
You know, like, because they weren't cool then. Like, it was like people didn't want to be associated with it. It was sort of like a thing you couldn't imagine. Yeah. Anyway, he also says,
now we put it on a T-shirt and say it's a political campaign T-shirt.
Okay, anyway. He also says, and yes, we need to ring the Game of Thrones shame bell at Keith, me, for not having seen The Sandlot forever. And he's not the only person who talked about The Sandlot. Phoenix writes, okay, Mike, since you asked me specifically, yeah, I did see The Sandlot a couple of times as a kid, though I haven't seen it since, so I can't say whether it holds up or that Keith would enjoy it as an adult. But I do remember quite vividly, so it certainly left an impression. I remember it felt like I was getting a glimpse into what childhood was like for the previous generation, as it was set in 1962.
Yeah.
I still haven't seen it, but I probably won't.
You gotta watch it. I'm sure it's streaming somewhere. It's really and James Earl Jones is so good in it.
Yeah, well, I love James Earl Jones. I'm not a big fan of sports movies for the same reason I'm not a big fan of musical movies, because they're things that I want to be live that aren't.
Yeah. It's much less, I'll say this, it's much less a sports movie and more in the,
of course.
It's like a nostalgic Goonies movie.
Right.
It's much more
now is
Goonies than
nostalgic.
sports. Yeah.
Yeah.
Everything.
Yeah, it's like,
right now, everything is nostalgic to me. Literally every memory you have.
look at them. They're like, able to speak to other people. Did he just shake somebody's hand? Oh my God.
We'll talk about it in a few minutes when we eventually get to Sportsball. Baseball's come back and it gave me a lot of feels.
Yeah, no, hockey's coming soon. I'm excited. All right. Phoenix also talks about, he says, Mike, I run into a similar issue as I watch older shows almost exclusively. The issue is spoilers on IMDb. He says, I have a rule against starting a show until it's at least 3 seasons in. I'm kind of the same, Phoenix. Like, I do not want to get excited about something and then have it be canceled. So when I want to look something up on IMDb without running into spoilers, I just go to Google and type in the episode name plus IMDb, and it takes me right to that episode page. Oh, that's a good idea. Mm-hmm. Then all you have to do is scroll past the description to avoid spoilers on that particular episode. No future episodes can be spoiled by looking up actors that way.
That's smart.
Very, very cool.
I responded, but I'll say to the rest of the audience, it's smarter than what my technique has been, which I call the squint method, which is, and when I'm dealing with something on the net I don't want spoiled, or if I'm watching a TV episode and I have to fast forward and want to make sure I don't overshoot it, I just squint my eyes so that it's blurred out enough that it's that I can't quite take. I can't think of I can't think of words right now. I can't make out what's on the screen, and
I do the same thing with sports spoilers. Which now, being an old person, I have enough autonomy that if there's a sports thing I care about, I just don't do the thing that would get in the way of the sports thing I care about. But definitely, like, if I miss like a hockey game and I'm trying to log on to NHL.tv and watch it without seeing the scores, so I'm like doing this, trying to click and start the game. It's ridiculous. So much sports. Now, of course, we're going to get some shit about that because Phoenix says, as someone who had to sit through 20-year-old sports and weather when I can't reach my phone fast enough to skip it, a discussion about the Laserdisc compression was riveting. And you guys went on for a while, but I'm very happy to say I was right about the Laserdisc.
Keith was right.
I have no idea why I was right about that. I was talking out of my ass, but sometimes you're right.
I want to interject
Keith
there.
Right. Yeah.
I started thinking, well, if Laserdiscs were
Laserdiscs on Cinemax.
That's actually the first band Keith and I started was a synth pop band called Laserdiscs.
You got it wrong twice in a row. that time you got it wrong by getting it right. That's amazing.
My whole life has been that way. What was I saying? Oh, yes. So I was thinking, well, if it topped out at 480, and that's what TV was probably 360, right?
320.
320. I'm just saying numbers now. I'm thinking,
Well,
then
actually,
why?
320 by 240. So the 480 is the up part.
Right.
And
So why did Laserdiscs look so great? And then I remembered that the majority of things I watched, because this is way before TiVo. So Keith and I were lucky enough to have VCRs, so I would tape stuff off TV, obviously. But because it was limited to how many blank tapes I had, I would record on SLP. So you'd get the 12 hours. So the quality of the recordings I was getting from a TV signal on a VHS that had been re-recorded 1,000 times on SLP was really bad resolution, which is why laser discs looked like the future.
Well, also, and I was also right that it sometimes looks better than DVDs because it's not compressed; it's analog, as Phoenix pointed out.
So if you thought you were only going to get 1 week of us discussing laser disc resolution, shame on you.
Next week, stay tuned for our 4-hour discussion on Betamax.
Our next podcast, the Laser Dicks Podcast.
Laser Dicks Podcast. Oh my God. Also, Phoenix is very upset that I'm finally on board for the weather segment. My intervention is too late. Mike's found an enabler. Okay.
Wait till you forget Mike is profoundly lazy. So you watch how I start cutting corners already here on week 3 of it.
Oh, well, I'm looking forward to that. Okay, so here's something special we have. So last week, you off the cuff asked Jorge how many times.
I think we save it. I think we save that for oopsies.
You want to save that for oopsies? Oh, okay, very good. So never mind. We are not going to do that section, so I have to leave another thing open for a very long time. And we can finally move on with our show and ask the eternal question. On February 20th, the year 2000, what were you doing?
This day in the basement.
Aw, look at that. You've animated the segments. Holy shit. Oh my God, this is out of control. Mike has been busy. His wife was out of town for the week, and look out, I need to watch the screen because stuff is happening.
It's not happening as smoothly as I would have liked. I forgot that when I tested all of this, you weren't on the feed. So
I think it looks great. I think it looks terrific.
Oh, so we're in the segment now. Yes.
We're in the segment.
We've arrived.
Yeah,
as we discussed last week and the weeks previous, I'm sort of on a hiatus from education, and I'm back home, and I'm receiving sort of the cold shoulder of disappointment from my family, my parents.
Yikes. That's sad.
And this is before everything starts going downhill with my dad and his health and such. But what I wanted to point out this time is that, throughout this, my buddy Wesley, who's been my friend since high school, we met kind of through theater, really, and music, and have been best friends ever since. But at this time, after our school, he was actually really pragmatic. He really hated his last 2 years of high school, just the education portion, and realized that he didn't really want to just spend money and go to college right away. So what he ended up doing was he just went right to work. He started working as a pencil pusher at and let me get this right, a pension administration firm.
Oh, geez.
He's really smart, though. Yeah. And what actually ends up happening, a quick future story, is that he ends up working for that place, going to another pension administration firm, working there for some years, going to college online, getting a degree in whatever pension administrators do. I won't pretend to know I really understand the nuance of the field, but the guy who owned and ran that firm was retiring, so he set up a succession plan, and long story short, to today, my buddy Wes owns that place.
No kidding.
So he started working right out of high school and now owns the company, which is pretty awesome.
Well, you have a lot more options when you're smart.
That helps.
That really does. We should have tried that.
But anywho,
yeah.
when I returned home at this period, what was really great is that since all my friends had gone off to college except for my buddy Wes, who was working, so I actually got to spend a ton of time with him, and our relationship even further developed and rooted itself in loyalty. And I ended up being the best man at his wedding. He ended up being the best man at my wedding. And now he adopted his beautiful son, and his wife is amazing, and we're all family friends, and it's just been kind of really cool. So
that's adorable. And you adopted a globe.
Yeah, I figured like I needed to be holding something too. So I guess what I'm saying is that, as I keep mentioning and foreboding about the, that's not a verb to be said, but
you're foreboding.
Yeah.
Don't you forebode at me.
Some dark shit starts to happen in my life in the next year or so, but I'm lucky because I had some good buddies around, and so I thought I'd take a moment to shout out Wes.
Oh, nice. Very nice.
I'm a nice guy. What can I say?
Yeah, exactly. All right. Well, you're going to have a nice story, and I'm just going to, explode into a supernova of narcissism, because what I remembered this today was that we skipped over Christmas, the Christmas Cop-Out number 3. Now, you all have heard from clips from Christmas Cop-Out number 1 and Christmas Cop-Out number 2. And because you're listening to this, you're clearly tolerant of my bullshit. So if you look at the graphics there, it is so perfect because it's me. I do all of this work. I've recorded an entire album. This is very early bad Photoshop. I have no idea what I'm doing. But I still can't even, there's like 12 words on there. I still spelled something wrong and gave it to my parents, the public school teachers, and they pretended to be proud of me. So this week I'm going to play a track from a song I put on there. I was feeling wistful, and I wrote a song called Home.
I struck out to at last begin my life.
And I realized I just basically just ripped off, use this opportunity to eat. I basically ripped off something from Little Shop. So a little bit Suddenly Seymour.
Only a little.
A little bit. I'll allow it. And hear my weird, still teenage voice. Their eyes to home. I miss you home. This is on my old SP88. So that was I know it's a blazingly cheesy, but it's like the perfect 19, 20-year-old song, because
it's okay, yeah, but it's hard to see something as cheesy when you're so committed to it. Like, you are feeling those feels, and so you go with it.
Well, it's so funny. I'm so sheltered growing up in a little town in Vermont. I was just baffled by a homeless person. I was like, what? How? What? What is that? What? And
so it's the president. So there you go.
Yeah, right. Anyway, so and I listened to the song today before we did this, and I was like, it rhymes, but I'm just sort of saying words that rhyme that don't really have any relationship to each other. So there's been a lot of development in the last 20 years. But anyway, so that was Christmas Cop-Out number 3, and that was the least embarrassing track on it. And there's 23 tracks. But on that one, Scott and Sean, my brothers, were both on it this time. Scott even sang a couple of songs on the as he was pursuing a professional hockey career, which was pretty awesome.
We got the full Varney Hansen Bop crew.
Bop indeed. All right,
It's time for the Out of Practice Podcast's This Day in the World. The greatest hits, the biggest movies, headlines from Vermont, essential sports
Look at
updates, and for some inexplicable reason, the weather from 20 years ago. Now back to Keith and Mike.
Wow, you have really you spent a lot of time downloading video templates.
Green screen globe going around.
Amazing.
Do you hear that incredible keyboard sound effect I can do? Listen again.
Yeah. Wow.
Clackety clack.
Wow. That's still us. Still us. All of the all the video templates aside, it's still us. All right. Well, if I can find it, the number one song. Strangely, we went backwards because I knew I loved you. Some Savage Garden retook the number one stop on the charts. So, on February 20th, 2000, the Burlington Free Press talked about Bush being victorious in the South Carolina primary because we are now deep into the 2000 presidential primary, and George Bush would ultimately be victorious. The top movie was The Whole 9 Yards, which took in $13 million. It was the Bruce Willis,
right,
and the guy from Friends.
Chandler, right?
Chandler from Friends. So, thank you, cover.
Matthew Perry?
Yes, Matthew Perry. Yeah, we only do a TV podcast. We should
Matthew Springsteen. What did I?
Matthew Springsteen.
Bob Odenkirk? I don't know.
Yeah, it's Cameron
you know how
McIntosh.
good I am with this, yeah.
Okay.
Bob Hoskins.
It's time for Sportsball.
John LeClaire scored his 30th goal of the season with 7 minutes remaining to put the Flyers over the Rangers 3-2. Damon Lankow and Mikael Rainberg also scored for Philadelphia. John Van Beesbrook got the win in net. The Bruins tied the Leafs 3-3 with goals from Joe Thornton, Sean Bates, and Andre Savage. Byron Dafoe relieved Bruins starter Robbie Tallis for reasons not discoverable on hockeyreference.com. Okay, you guys, you are so close to the end of the nonsense. But for the first time, where am I? I am not going to pretend that I'm not starting the weather cue because I'm finally on board for...
Weather.
Yeah!
Yes.
Can you tell me the
The weather. Oh, I'm about to.
Cause we all need to know. Was it hot or did it snow? Tell me the weather from 21 years ago.
Oh, I'm about to do that.
Yeah, you will.
Well, we are talking about the weather from, oh no, where's my graphic? There we go. February 20th, the year 2000. King of Prussia, let me tell you, it was cold. 21 degrees Fahrenheit was the low, and it was raining, but not as bad as in Rochester where it was snowing.
Of course
low
it was.
Of 18 degrees. Keith had nobody to keep him warm, at least nobody who meant it. Sorry, Keith. I always take that moment to dig you. But at least the sun was peeking through those clouds with Bobby and the crew. And this was your time machine weather. I only gave myself 20 seconds.
All right. Well, the corner cutting has begun. He's now doing it live.
Actually, it was easier to just record it, so I might go back.
Okay.
I'm a human being, god damn it! My life has value, and I'm not gonna take this anymore!
It's time to talk about the damn episode!
Okay, we are finally talking about the practice. Remember, this is a podcast about the practice.
That's true.
Would you believe that?
I can't wait to talk about it.
Yeah, okay. So we are talking about Season 4, Episode 15, Race, Ipsa, Loquitor. Now, I asked Jillian what that was as someone who took a lot of Latin, and she explained the second part. She didn't understand the first part, but we'll understand it when we watch the episode because it's possible there's a little bit of non-Latin in there. Okay, so this episode was written by David E. Kelly. It was directed by one of my favorites, Alex Graves. from The West Wing, who last directed Closet Justice. Which leaves us with only one more thing to do.
What is that supposed to mean? What's your problem?
Yes,
Is
get
this
it.
what happens to women when you insert your penis?
What does Mike think's gonna happen?
Yeah, what if he would have drank the curdled milk? Then what would have happened?
Keith, we're back, baby. We've got previously on, and we talk about, get ready for it. Do you guys remember Henry Winkler was on the show?
Yes.
And he took the fall for his son, who then committed suicide, which basically damned Henry Winkler to spend his life in prison?
Yes.
Well, that's what we're reminded of. What that has to do with weird Latin? No idea. So I'm going to say that the Fonz, or Henry Winkler's character, whose name escapes me, George, maybe? No, that was Vogelman.
George.
We'll know shortly. He has been getting a little too Fonzie and getting in fights in lockup in prison. And so push came to shove, and he had to strangle a man to death in prison. The Fonz. And now Jimmy has to defend prison Fonz from I'm sure it'll be Helen. So that's it. Prison Fonz is getting himself in trouble by Fonzing it up in the lockup. Is that a good enough guess?
I think that's a perfectly good guess. I'm trying to make eye contact with the camera, but it's strange because I don't make eye contact with anyone.
Right.
But I'm doing my best. Okay. Well, guys, it's now time to click over to your regular podcasting service.
Listen, there's going to be a link in the YouTube, and if you're crazy, when we flip over to the next slide, you can just QR code it. It'll take you right to an online Radio Public page that'll jump you right to the podcast episode. So
now, are you going to put the link back in the episode notes? Because you got shit from Phoenix. Not doing that this week.
No. It wasn't the episode notes. I think Phoenix was mentioning that I didn't give him a verbal cue to go from podcast back to YouTube, like when we were switching.
Verbal cue.
Yeah, because definitely the link is in there. So maybe, unless you listen to it instantly, in which case it takes me a while to get the links up. But we'll make sure to give you a verbal cue to come back. So now we've got a QR code. We've got a link in both descriptions on YouTube and in the podcast.
Wow.
And we'll tell you exactly when you should switch back and forth. We are here for you.
Guys, I think Mike might be having some sort of a nervous breakdown. He needs help. Because not only we're animated now, apparently. I'm getting texts with all right, we need a 2-shot with this, and we need this, and I need to crop this and move that. Oh my Lord.
My wife's
and
been
then
out
you
of
gave
town.
up on me.
I have been alone for the first time for a week in 4 months, and so I didn't realize how quickly I would become bored and lonely and run out of things to do. So I just started.
Boredom and loneliness is what fuels this podcast.
Yeah, well, it was its inception. It will be its demise, and it is the fuel that runs it in the interim.
Yes, indeed.
Okay,
all right.
So jump on over to the episode, and unless you're on YouTube, in which case you don't have to listen to this ad for Anchor. All right, so we're back on the YouTubes. Here we are.
Wait, where are we back? Are we going somewhere? Are we going back
yes.
to the YouTube now?
We are on the YouTube. Yes.
Okay, Phoenix, officially, we're here. We're here. Look at us. We're here.
Very excited to be here. Thank you. Thank you for joining us. What an episode we had.
What an episode indeed. And it is time for Mike to tell us what happened in that episode in a segment we call...
Mike has 30 seconds to remember what just happened on the show.
Ooh, a fancier countdown.
Okay, you ready?
Let's do it.
2 giant cases this week. Jimmy pulls a very crazy, underhanded deal in the back room with Richard Bay to get Henry Winkler out of prison in exchange for another client taking second-degree murder before actually discussing that with the client and then basically convincing him to take it, even though he could have possibly gotten acquitted on that first-degree murder charge. So we win, but do we lose our soul?
Ooh, and also another entire case.
Ladies and gentlemen, the Out of Practice podcast, in unofficial, unsolicited, unfactual association with David E. Kelly Productions, proudly present
OOPSY!
The OOPSYs! Celebrating excellence in acting good, lawyering good, guesting good, and being Tom Brady. Not to mention, this is where we rate the episode and stuff. Now, here are your hosts, Keith and Mike!
What the hell are the OOPSYs?
Okay, well, now that we've done that, it is time to award our first OOPSY, which is...
Most valuable.
Okay, who do you got?
Well, we have two really good options this week. Option one is, I think, Rebecca Cricket, because she
Pulled a rabbit out of the hat.
pulled rabbit out of the hat, and we don't know if it's her reclose that did it, but she was able to call out the bullshit of the defense and also help close the deal to win her client $6 million. With
Yes.
an assist from Eugene, of course, but I think Rebecca is who got the kind of the double win there, the moral
Right.
the moral win and also the case win.
She pulled a racist rabbit out of a hat.
Then we have Jimmy Berluti, who, yes, did a deal with the devil, the very short devil, as the show likes to remind us, and aggravates Keith. But that deal did secure justice because we know that Henry Winkler did not commit this murder and was in prison for it.
Right.
And it also, so it served justice, and it also got a man out of prison for the rest of his life, which the stakes are so high there. You know, worst case scenario, that lady, her husband was dead one way or the other. In the Rebecca case, it was just a matter of how much money she would get, you know.
Well, it really begs the question, what are we calling most valuable? Because like
Right.
most ethical, definitely not. The stakes were higher on Jimmy's case for sure. But yeah, I don't know. Who's your call?
Man, I think
Make a call, man.
the truth is that
The stakes are too high for this award.
that $11 million for that woman still does not equate to a man's life being restored.
It's 11 now? Boy, you
Inflation, baby. That's 2020 inflation.
okay, fair enough. Okay. I'm really good job with the math on the inflation there.
Yeah, I know the statistics. Never let math get in the way of a good I can't tie the two things. I tried. Comedian? I'm going to say Jimmy
If
Berluti.
you don't take a bath, you must do the math.
Jimmy Berluti is my MVL. Yeesh.
Yeesh. Okay. All right. Yeah. I think I see the logic of it, but I guess I'm feeling moral today. So I'm going to give my MVL to Rebecca Cricket. So we have a split for most valuable lawyer. Congratulations, Rebecca Jiminy Cricket. Maybe I'll find that graphic and put that back up for the MVL. All right, now it's time for
Already famous cause you've been on TV, getting a paycheck. Or the first entry on your IMDb. Way to go. But you're the best guest actor. You are the best guest actor. You are the best guest actor on the episode.
Okay, best guest actor.
All right, who was Laserdick again?
Was Laserdick? Laserdick is played by none other than
You keep looking at that. So he is one of my nominees, along with
Ken Howard,
along with Henry Winkler, who only really spoke in 2 scenes, but they were so good, and he was so reserved, and his testimony went a long way into winning the case, although it wasn't the determining factor. However, Laserdick to me made the Rebecca and Eugene case mean something. Otherwise, it was sort of paint by numbers and almost a throwaway. But he alone raised the stakes by, yes, the writing was excellent, the direction was excellent, but his performance really made me root for him to lose. And so I'm giving my official oopsie to Laserdick.
To Laserdick Ken Howard. So, yeah, and you want to know he's hard to find on IMDb. Speaking of having a Laserdick energy, his photo on IMDb is not a close-up of his face, but rather a picture of him winning his Emmy from far away, so you can't see him because he has I got a very big dick. Laser.
Yeah,
yes.
Nice.
So, yes, absolutely agreed. I think Ken Howard was dynamite. He was great in this episode and did a lot of work and did an excellent job. So congratulations.
But before we move on from Best Guest Actor, we should probably...
Yes, indeed. So last week, as I tried to set up before, and I'm glad you remembered, because there's no way in hell I would have remembered that. Jorge, or you tossed a question to Jorge.
I did.
And you asked him, how many times had we had an opportunity to give the Best Guest Actor award out to Judge Kittleson, and we didn't, Holland Taylor, but we gave it to somebody else. And he says, that's the wrong screenshot. I've opened the wrong screenshot. He says, challenge accepted. I will post the chart I created when you post the winners of this week's oopsies. I'm prepared for the wedgies and wet willies, waiting for doing my project on the day it was assigned. And I said, we'll have to talk to the intern about adding you to the staff, but of course she's been promoted. So we have a position open of official out of practice intern that we should discuss. Because I feel like Jorge's put in some fine work here, because as you see on your screen, he has done a thorough analysis of whether or not we gave Holland Taylor the oopsie on the opportunities. And you can see here that in season 3, we gave it to her 5 out of 6 times. And for season 4, we have only given her a half of an oopsie out of 7 appearances.
Wow.
Which is really quite saying something.
Wow.
And so the people, and I have to say, like, Jorge has amazing handwriting for, like, writing on his screen on the computer. It's amazing. So here are the people she has lost to. She lost to Linda Hunt in Closet Justice. She lost to Henry Winkler and Michael Monks in Free Dental. She shared it with J. Patrick McCormick. She lost to Michael Monks again. She lost to James Whitmore twice. She lost to Jason Kravitz. And then last week, she lost to Leo Fitzpatrick and Gates McFadden. Fascinating.
So
I have an explanation for this.
Okay, let's hear that first, because I was going to say one could accuse us of talking the talk but not walking the walk in the hardware department when it comes to Holland Taylor and our love for her.
Yeah, well, and as he snarked us. But no, I think this speaks less to Holland Taylor's performances and more about the writing of the character. Because Judge Kittleson as a character, we talked about this last week actually, was she was, her personal life, her personal internal feelings and actions were a big part of the plot in season 3. Whereas season 4, she's less integrated into the plot. She is less of a plot point herself and more of a judge that we're seeing in the context of the show. So the function that she is performing on the practice so far in season 4 is different than the function she served in season 3, which is odd considering she just won a motherfucking Emmy for season 3. And a lot of oopsies.
Okay. I like it. I mean, I know you and I know how much we love her, and she doesn't need our oopsies to vindicate her.
To be validated. Yeah. Yeah, well, send your complaints to David E. Kelly. That's what we always say at the end of every episode.
I stand by it.
All right, so we do have an award to give out this week, and Holland Taylor is not eligible. Oh, wait, we already gave it.
Sure did.
Oh, God. All right, well, we have more awards to give out, including...
You killed your podiatrist or blew the case, but you let a single tear run down your face. You're the best actor on the show.
You know, for somebody who has devoted his life primarily to music, I barely know what end is up on a guitar. I'm ashamed of that. I really should learn someday.
Jen saw yesterday the piano came.
Yes. So Jen's back. Oh, you
back,
told me that. Yeah. That's exciting. She played it yet? Has she proven herself an advanced intermediate?
She can read the right hand, which is far superior to my skills. So she wins. #Jen was right. Enough to justify. I've been playing it so much that it's already justified its cost to me. So all is well.
Wait, I would just like to point out the audible you threw in the mid sentence. #Jen was right. Enough.
Well, when it comes to marriage, you'll find that being right enough is really the whole point of the game. Just right enough.
You can't surrender that she was right. You have to qualify it by adding enough.
I would say that you could make a strong argument that she oversold her abilities. But it's still, the question was, was it enough to justify purchasing a piano? And it turns out, yes, it's something we should have had all along. Also, the Bluetooth, we're moving, so it doesn't matter, but the Bluetooth runs from the living room all the way to my computer, so I can actually use it as a Bluetooth MIDI device without having to move it.
Cool.
Which is pretty cool. I mean,
that's cool. Yeah, that's more advanced than my piano. My piano is a little older, so I cannot Bluetooth my piano. Anyway. Yeah, let's give out some awards.
Yes. You heard my diatribe already if you were listening to the podcast about the understated acting in this episode. I'm a big fan of it. I'm going to make this short so that before I blow my computer up again, I think Michael Badalucco is the one who takes this episode over the top for me. He had that one scene with Bobby, even being able to notice clearly the actor had a cold, but also no reason that the character can't have a cold also.
No, it fit. It actually fit the storytelling, which is probably why they didn't go back and ADR it.
Yeah, that was such a great scene. And throughout the episode, not just that scene, the stakes are very clear for him. His intentions are always clear. And look, we don't have to agree with what he did or how he did it, but it was an awesome ride. So Michael Badalucco gets my OOPSY award for Best Actor this week.
Yeah, no question. It's definitely Michael's episode. And I was thinking in his scene with Bay in the bar where he sort of like laid out the plan, Michael gave Jimmy this different energy because I think due to his desperation in that moment, we saw this very confident Jimmy. He was laying it out. He had a plan. There was no like stuttering and malapropisms or anything like that. He was just really a confident, direct, and it's an interesting development of the character because bumbling Jimmy from season 1 wouldn't have been able to pull this off. Mm-hmm. And so even he's going in sort of a sketchier way, there's a lot of growth in both the character and from Michael's performance. So congratulations, Michael Badalucco, on your fake award. Up next,
The Tom Brady Award for being Tom Brady.
so last week, but you hesitated too long, and I'm like, there's dead air on this free podcast. Oh God, save us from dead air.
Oh, when we're talking, the air is dead as well, so it doesn't really make any difference.
Yeah, fair enough. So last week's Tom Brady was Union Square chess hustler Tom Brady, who won the Tom Brady Award for being Tom Brady. That brings the big question: who wins the Tom Brady Award for being Tom Brady this week?
I'm so glad. I've forgotten to do it every time he's been on the pod. I have a suspicion this is the last time we see Winkler, is my guess. And so, thank God we haven't overplayed the joke. I'd like to give this week's Tom Brady Award for being Tom Brady to Fonz Brady.
Fonz Brady. Okay. Yes, we have not overplayed the joke awarding 70 some odd Tom Brady awards for being Tom Brady from a character that Tom Brady used to write us in like a year ago.
That's true.
Like 50 episodes, but
we've overplayed that joke. I meant we haven't overplayed the Fonz joke.
Okay. All right. Okay.
Well, in fact, overplaying it is the whole joke at this point with the Tom Brady thing. Even if it's just us, the joke is for.
Tom is long gone. Tom moved to Tampa.
Yeah.
He's done with that. Okay. Guys, we're almost done. I swear.
Ladies and gentlemen, it is time to announce how many spare tires this episode gets.
Well, I think I liked the episode more than it was good. If that makes any sense?
Okay.
It goes to show how many elements go into a successful work of art, be it TV or any medium, because on their surface, the one case, literally there was nothing new in the Henry Winkler case. No new evidence was put into play. Right. It was just another swing for Jimmy to try to help him out. In the Rebecca and Eugene case, it wasn't a particularly interesting civil case. It was negligence. We've seen it done before and probably better. But the acting was so great. The direction, as you've mentioned, and I'll let you talk about it, was so excellent. The scoring was great. We had a lot of serious beats and really high emotional stakes for a lot of our characters, whereas Eugene and Rebecca were defending their integrity. Michael, or Jimmy, was sort of undermining their integrity in pursuit of what he considered justice, which was sort of a vigilante play, really, when you think about it.
Sure.
And so all of that, I really enjoyed the ride and all of the set pieces, maybe more than the script as itself, just the story on paper would have seen. So what I think would have been a kind of a 7 story, all of the pieces build it up to a pretty solid 8 spare tires for me.
Yeah, no, I think that's fair. When I watched it the first time, I was like, there's too many stories. We have an A and a B and a C. But like you said, it was so well executed. And this is, again, kudos to Alex Graves. You can always tell when it's his episode. It's usually lit a little better, a little more saturated. I think he was like, guys, can we turn on the lights for this episode? But also he shoots it so cinematically. Just watch the opening shot, the first 10 seconds of the show, and you have the camera descending, and we're looking through 2 sets of bars, and as they're getting closer to us, it's really remarkable filmmaking. And you're right, in terms of the underplaying of the scenes, and it certainly gave us a tremendous performance from Ken Howard. So I liked all of that, and I think what I liked best about this episode was the Eugene and Rebecca case and the entire story about race being told in subtext. Nobody ever says the word race. Nobody says it out loud. But the whole thing is clear through subtext. And it's what's really cool about it. You go back to the title of the episode, right? the title of the episode is Res Ipsa Loquitor, and it's referencing Res Ipsa Loquitor, which basically is the matter speaks for itself. But if you look at the title of the episode, it's Res Ipsa Loquitor. So the title is Race Speaks for Itself, essentially. And so that's exactly what happened in the episode. It was never said out loud, but it spoke for itself. It was clear nonetheless, and that takes some skill. And I got to give kudos to David E. Kelley to be able to pull that off. Because it's really difficult to do, as a writer, to say something so specific and so strong, all with subtext.
Right.
So well done. So for that, I give this 8.25 spare tires.
All right.
Now,
So math.
But that gives us one more important question that we have still to get answered. What is the deal with the motherfucking jelly?
That's right. We did say we were going to put it to bed today.
Yeah. So I want to hear your theory, then I'll have my theory. And at the end of it, guys, we need a vote. You can vote below on YouTube or on Facebook or Instagram. Which one of our theories is correct?
All right. Who's going first then?
You can go first.
So all this time we're trying to figure out what the jelly had to do with, I forget his name, but let's just say Henry Winkler's character, the doctor, the good doctor. Here's what I'm going to say. It had nothing to do with Henry Winkler. Henry Winkler had nothing.
We should specify to remind folks that at the murder scene, the woman who was strangled had jelly all over her face, and part of what he did to rescue her was pull jelly out of her throat. But we also discovered a whole
cabinet
shelf of jelly at their home. All right, sorry, go ahead.
So Henry Winkler suffers from some obsessive compulsive behavior when it comes to the bugs and the squishing.
Mm-hmm.
I think that is hereditary, and it actually got passed to the son. The son has an obsession with jelly. Clearly, he has had some obsessions with murder and with violence, and the jelly went hand in hand with that. So when he found out his dad was doing this bug thing with this lady and he went in to murder her, he needed to shove that jelly down her throat to appease the obsessions that were cycling in his brain. So the reason we haven't heard about it is because it wasn't Henry Winkler at all. It was the son who was obsessed with jelly. That is my weird yet solid prediction. Keith?
Okay. All right. Interesting. Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense. All right. So here's my
Makes
theory.
no sense, actually, but thank you.
That has... it makes as much sense as any of it. So here's my theory. So they needed cockroaches for her to step on, right? And he didn't have a source for the cockroaches. Oh. So, like at a picnic, the ants come running for the jelly. The jelly was used to summon the cockroaches for them to step on. And so he was like, let's ramp it up this week. I want you to put the jelly on your face and the cockroaches come onto you before you step on them. And I'm going to we're upping the ante on the fetish this week.
I got to tell you, buddy, rarely do I so readily admit defeat, but you definitely have the better hypothesis there.
So David E. Kelley, write in and tell us what the heck you were talking about. But you will have to do that later because we are moving on. If you would like to write us, you can write us at outofpracticepodcast@gmail.com. You can find us on social media at Out of Practice Podcast on Instagram and Facebook. We have a blog, outofpracticepodcast.blogspot.com. You can also watch us here on the YouTubes. Just search for Out of Practice. We're right here. Leave a comment below. We will happily respond and read it on the show. And please join the jury. Leave us a rating and review on Apple Podcasts or any other service, and we will welcome you into the jury. You can also join our legion of founding sponsors to whom we are eternally grateful, and Mike's going to tell you how.
As always, you can donate to the show, as Keith mentioned, in one of two ways, a one-time donation or a monthly contribution. You can find the appropriate links to do so in our show notes. We thank all of our current and future sponsors for helping us keep the show going, and to everyone who engages with us on social media. And another way you can support the show is by telling a friend who might enjoy our nonsense or the podcast, maybe checking out the practice for the first time. So if you've got some free time, why don't you go ahead, drop those pants, grab that laser dick, and shoot off some laser sounds.
I knew that was coming. It still made me laugh. Laser sounds.